Hey guys, Gaming Off the Grid here, coming at you with episode 2 from the mini-series we're doing, focusing on the gaming generations of our lifetime.
Yes.
What are we looking at today?
Today we're going to look at Generation 4, otherwise known as the 16-bit era.
Gotta be perfectly upfront here, I'm very excited about this. This is my favorite console generation of all time. There are so many great games, some funny accessories that we need to talk about.
Oh yeah.
It's just a great era from gaming, and I've got so many great memories that I'm excited to share with everybody today.
And I'm excited to drink some beer.
Always excited.
Today we're going to be drinking an IPA from an Iowa brewery called Toppling Goliath. One of my favorite breweries and one of my favorite styles of beer.
Yeah, you love IPAs. Toppling Goliath is super close to where we're located. They have a great product. You're excited, which makes me a little bit excited, yeah. I like drinking new beers, and you're going to show me something new today.
Yes, I'm super excited for that. So pour yourself a beer, and let's get started.
Gaming Off the Grid coming at you now. Alright, here we go. The 16-bit era, Generation 4.
Oh, this generation's sweet. It has the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, the Sega 32X, the Atari Jaguar, just to name a few.
Yeah, Jaguar, I've seen one and played one in recent times, but it's not in the archives.
Just a real Jaguar.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. It was pretty obscure. This generation was really about the battle between the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
My memory is very vivid of that battle, and it's probably one of my best memories of the generation of not knowing which one I wanted. I know what I had. I had the Super Nintendo. All the teenagers on my block, and I was younger than that, seemed to have the Sega Genesis. That seemed to be the edgy system to have. The cutting edge, pushing the envelope. I mean, they even said in their commercials, Sega does what Nintendo don't.
What Nintendo don't.
Oh man.
I know, it sounds cheesy now, but they were attacking Nintendo on all fronts. So in the moment, I remember feeling, man, I really wish I had a Genesis. Retrospect, looking back, I think the Super Nintendo is the better console. You know, it's got better sound. I think the graphics are a little bit better. And as far as games that have stood the test of time, I mean, the Genesis does not have a game that can compete. And I don't care if you're a Sega person or a Nintendo person. Where's their Link to the Past? Where's their Super Metroid? Where's their Castlevania 4? Okay, they've got Bloodlines, I believe, but Castlevania 4 is still a great, it's just a better game. The Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, I could go on and on. Earthbound, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy 3. There's just so many of those games. You know, the Genesis, you know, when we go back and play it now, we play just mainly Streets of Rage?
Yeah, Streets of Rage, that's about it.
And this era, we gotta remember, this was before the internet. So this was the era of word of mouth. The video game cover was everything.
Yeah, that's what sold the game. Even movies and any digital, it was like the cover.
Yeah, if you had a bad cover as a video game or a movie,
Garbage.
You're done for.
No one would buy you.
There was no way to get a walk through the game by just Googling something. It was also a really fun era. There was a lot of magazines, like Nintendo Power. I believe Nintendo Power started during the 8-bit era.
Yeah.
But it really became a big deal.
It was thriving.
Yes, this era of walkthroughs and things like that. There was Nintendo Power. I remember GamePro being a thing. There was a lot of walkthroughs, reviews. I was really fortunate recently. A really good friend of mine, his name's Lyle, gave me his entire Nintendo Power collection, just out of the goodness of his heart. And he knew we'd put it in the game room, and he was, he's happy to do so. And so we've got a lot of these in really good condition. And when you go back through, it just reminds me of grabbing one of these, at the grocery store or the video rental store to help you get through a game. And this was your version of Google back then. You had to read.
You had to get the magazine about the game you wanted to beat.
Yeah, it was really cool. You're kind of going back through this catalog.
Yeah, I'm kind of reliving a childhood that I didn't have in this era.
Yeah.
And so I have the Super Nintendo Classic, and I've been going through, I'm on Super Mario World right now, and that game's kicking my ass.
Well, it's a great game. I hope you're enjoying it because it is literally one of the best Mario games ever made.
I absolutely love it.
You know, I haven't played Odyssey yet, so I don't quite know what I would think about that, but I mean, I think you talk to most people, Mario Galaxy, Mario 3, Super Mario World, Mario 64, and Odyssey are kind of those games that just, whoever ranks them where, it just depends on personal preference, but it's one of the best Mario games ever. And so I think you're seeing that right now.
Yeah, I am seeing that. It's so much fun, and it's really hard.
Yeah. You know, the Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo era, super difficult. The difficulty threshold is way high. If you can beat those games, it was such a good achievement. There's not a lot of memory on those games, so if you think about it, I think they really made the games hard just to make you keep playing them.
Yeah, that's how they got you.
You just had to master them, essentially. You had to memorize things to be able to get through them. Some accessories from this era, things started getting kind of weird on the Sega front, as I remember. The 32X and the Sega CD. I don't even really know what was happening. I remember there was a neighbor friend that got the 32X, and I was thinking he got a new system. And I go over to his place, and it's just this thing that plugs into the top of his Genesis. And he had a Spider-Man game, I believe, for it. And I was just like, what is this? Like, it was just really confusing. I thought it was cool. I remember thinking it was cool. There's a Sega CD attachment for the Genesis. I don't think I ever really played that much. One thing I do remember that I thought was like the coolest thing ever, and looking back at it, super progressive, and I don't know, I think Sega in so many areas, even beyond this generation, was just too far ahead of where technology was.
Yeah.
Was the Sega Channel. I had a neighbor friend, his name was Eric, and he had the Sega Channel. And have you ever heard of that?
No. What is the Sega Channel?
Well, it was this deal that plugged into the top of the Genesis. And I believe the cable wire just goes right into the back of it. And it was a data feed where there was games just available to stream.
What the heck?
And to play. And I believe they changed monthly. It was a subscription service, so I think it was like 10 to 15 bucks a month, maybe 20. I don't remember.
That's like that era's like PlayStation Plus. Like,
yeah, or Steam or something like that. But
that's
it was
incredible.
It was only Genesis games, but it was so weird. I remember just going over there and just like we would just scroll through the games and like, man, what are we gonna play?
Jeez.
It was so cool. And again, I had the Super Nintendo, so I'm sitting there like, well, where's my Super Nintendo channel? Like, I was like, man, there's no 32X. There's no Super Nintendo channel. I mean, I had the Super Game Boy. I was kind of like, where's
Super Game Boy?
Sega channel. Exactly. It was really weird, and I'm a huge Nintendo fanboy, but that era, I just remember Sega making me question everything about games.
Yeah, you probably thought that Sega was gonna freaking upscale Nintendo.
Yeah, and it was. I feel like it was trumping them in so many areas, but almost too fast. Like, it was just, there was only one person I remember in my entire life that had the Sega channel, and it was Eric. And that, it was just so progressive and so cool. And the Super Nintendo had the Super Scope,
which we have in the game room, which is pretty cool to have, but I don't know how useful it is.
Yeah,
I've never used one.
It's not the best. It's not very responsive. If you were to go back and like if you had to take a Super Nintendo with you to an island and you could only take like 4 things, don't bring that. It's not worth it. You need to grab Yoshi's Island's Link to the Past. You need to bring Super Metroid and
Super Mario World.
There you go. And you'd be set.
For sure.
You take those 4 games and you would be set. Super Scope was kind of cool. I like having it in the game room just for nostalgia purposes and the memories, but it wasn't very practical. But on the accessories front, Sega was just nailing Nintendo, but they also didn't really know. I think they just spread themselves too thin. So you had the CD, this 32X.
They were trying too much at once.
I think they were, and I think people were confused.
Yeah, they were like, what?
If I remember right, and I might be off on my dates a little bit, but I have a pretty good memory. I think the 32X was almost simultaneous with their 32-bit console, the Sega Saturn. Weird. So, like, what are you doing? So they had so many great ideas. They were so progressive, almost to a fault, I think, where Nintendo was just chipping away, staying the course,
which I think
making great games.
Nintendo is such a smart company.
Yeah.
I think they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So So they were like, let's just build on this.
But it was just an awesome time. The competition, just the Sega Nintendo fury that was going on was so fun. Arguing with friends about what was better on what console. Well, you know, Aladdin, great on both consoles. I know it's Aladdin, but you know, which one's better? They're both great games. The Genesis one might be a little bit better, but there was just fun. Like, is this game better on my Super Nintendo or his Sega? It was a lot of fun to talk about those things.
And speaking of fun things to talk about, this beer.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I think it's pretty darn good, and that's from a non-IPA fan's perspective. Low hoppy, this profile.
Very low
Yeah.
hoppy. It has that IPA taste, but it's not in your face about it.
Yeah, it's a very cloudy beer. I see some particles floating around in there, which is kind of cool. High citrus profile. It might be cloudy because of that. It does kind of have a juice type feel to it. Good mouth feel. I can picture getting home from work on a summer day and having one of these for sure.
Sitting outside drinking it, yeah.
I will drink it again.
This is so tasty. It's an easy IPA. If you're looking to introduce people to an IPA beer, I highly recommend this beer. It's a good introduction to IPAs.
Yeah, some of the ones you've tried showing me, I remember like a Surly one you were telling me about, or something that was just like, holy cow, the hops just like attacked.
Yeah, you don't want to start off with a high hoppiness if you're trying to show someone an IPA.
Yeah.
But this is a good intro to IPAs, and I highly recommend it if you can get your hands on it.
Yeah, pretty much anything from Toppling Goliath is pretty dialed.
Oh yeah,
Great
so
brewery.
good.
So before we sign off, is this generation of consoles, is it worth playing today for people?
Yes. I didn't play it much when I was growing up, but I have the classic, the mini, and it looks great. And the one we have in the game room, the sound is good, the graphics are good, the controls are still good, everything holds up.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you haven't experienced this generation, you definitely should go back and revisit it. Anybody who could make like a top 20 games of all time, I almost guarantee you no short of 3 to 5 entries on that would be from this generation. So many great games. In particular, the Super Nintendo has just held up so well over time.
Yeah, so well.
If you just want to get a snapshot, I think the SNES Classic would be a great way, if you haven't been there, to jump into it. Collecting could be a little tough right now. The Super Nintendo is not super fun to collect for because the prices just keep going up and up and up. The Genesis is a little bit easier to collect for. But the Super Nintendo, it just keeps going up in value. I don't know why, because there's so much of that stuff out there, but the price is just being driven up, and it could be because of people like us on YouTube. I have no idea. But regardless, they're games that you need to find a way to play. It's a great generation. Generation 4, my all-time favorite generation. And you're right now experiencing how awesome it is.
Yeah, I'm doing my homework and I'm getting caught up. And
it's very, very exciting.
Fantastic.
Thanks for tuning in. It's been another episode of Gaming Off the Grid. We were just going over Generation 4. Stay tuned for our next episode. Comment below. Let us know your gaming memories and what other stuff do they need to do.
Subscribe to the channel if you're not. That'd be awesome. You can find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you. Comment below, please.
All right, it's been a great episode. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Guys, keep drinking, keep playing, and we'll see you next time on Gaming Off the Grid. I'm excited because this isn't in my wheelhouse, so you're going to introduce me to something new here.
Pause.
Hey guys, Gaming Off the Grid here. This is our second episode in our mini-series we're doing, reviewing console... I don't know, brown cow. I just got a whiff of that fart that just...
So, sit down, pour yourself a beer, and let's get started.
Gaming at the... Dang it.
Okay.
Hey guys, Gaming Off the Grid here. Coming in.